Well, thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.
Now, a health story that we've talked about quite a lot over the last few months and we know matters to many of you. This morning, the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says a targeted screening programme for prostate cancer should be rolled out urgently by the NHS.
A new report today from the charity Prostate Cancer Research says the scheme, which would cost £25 million a year, is both affordable and deliverable. Our health editor Hugh Pym reports.
How are you? Hi, Grace. Hi.
Rishi Sunak on a recent visit to Guy's Hospital in London, hearing from staff about testing and rapid diagnosis of prostate cancer. The former Prime Minister believes the time is right to introduce a targeted screening programme for those men who may be vulnerable.
I've had family and friends that have been impacted by it. Thankfully, not lost their lives, but that partly has made me aware of why it's so important that we catch it early.
With hindsight, was there a moment when you were in government when this could have been pushed a bit more?
The thing that has changed is the use of MRI scans, and I think that is the thing that means that we can now much more effectively and safely and cost effectively, in fact, target those who most need our help.
A new report by the Prostate Cancer Research Charity says a targeted screening programme should be introduced for men aged 45 to 69 with a family history of the cancer and black men who face double the risk in the same age group. The report says it would cost £25 million a year if adopted across the UK. In total, this could cover up to 1.3 million patients. The 6 times Olympic cycling champion Sir Chris Hoy revealed last year he had terminal prostate cancer. He's called for more younger men to be offered the PSA blood test, which is not routinely available to those under 50 without symptoms. That test on its own can be unreliable, with critics saying it can lead to false positives and unnecessary treatment with side effects. MRI scanning can now be used as a second line of testing. But some medical experts are doubtful about the idea of prostate cancer screening. They say more research is needed to be sure that the right men are offered sometimes invasive treatment.
The problem is we can often find disease that doesn't need to be treated, and we end up causing harms of biopsy and harms of treatment. And my concern is at the moment that harm to benefit equation isn't quite right.
The UK National Screening Committee is now weighing up the arguments. 5 years ago, it said prostate cancer screening would not be recommended. Its latest verdict is due soon. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Well, let's talk further about this, shall we? We're joined on the sofa by David James from Prostate Cancer Research, the charity that's released this report. And with him is former world champion boxer Johnny Nelson, who's been campaigning to raise awareness of prostate cancer for, you've got your own reasons, your own family reasons. Do you want to just tell people?
Yeah, my father passed away from prostate cancer earlier this year. And you know what, he came to England in the late 50s, and he had that old school mentality. And you hear the horror stories about finger up the bum and everything. You've got to have these uncomfortable conversations, and guys have got to feel comfortable having the conversation. And he just wouldn't go there, wouldn't do it. After my father passed, there's a group of me and my friends, and we talked about it, obviously the grief and the sadness. And the guys decided to start getting screened. 2 of them discovered they were diagnosed with prostate cancer. And so it's just having the awareness and the courage and the confidence to say, I'm going to do this. I don't care what the stigma is. Unfortunately, we as men don't talk to each other enough to feel comfortable doing such a thing.
So doing it in time and not leaving it too late.
Leave it too late. You know, my father's a prime example. I know 2 or 3 people that were diagnosed with prostate cancer and left it too late. So I think this is so important, and it baffles me for why it's not being pushed through more sooner. And
David, John has just mentioned a really important thing, which is at the moment, the person themselves has to go and ask for screening, try and get screened, don't they? So for anyone who's watching this morning who might not be comfortable asking for that, just what would you say to them?
I would encourage you, look, firstly, it's a simple blood test, right? As Johnny mentioned, this stigma about a sort of, a rectal examination is now kind of a myth of the past. Go ask your GP, and say, look, if you're in a high-risk group, so men of black ethnicity fall into a high-risk group, if you have a family history of prostate cancer or breast or ovarian cancer, that also puts you into a high-risk group. We particularly encourage those men to go ask their GP and really, tell them that you're in this high-risk category, and hopefully you can then access a simple blood test.
Johnny was saying you don't understand why there isn't a national screening program. But one of the reasons that has been given to us in the past when we've talked about this is that those PSA blood tests aren't necessarily as reliable as they might be. And that was one reason why some of the experts, the politicians, were saying, should we commit to it? How reliable are they?
So it's a great question. The PSA test is not the test that diagnoses whether you have prostate cancer. It's part of a stepwise approach. So you start with the PSA test. If that is raised, you will then go on to get an MRI scan. Now, that is the big difference in the last 5-6 years since the last time the National Screening Committee made their decision, because that has been transformational. That is helping us find and distinguish between aggressive and harmless cancers. So that's reducing the amount of men who are unnecessarily going to have biopsies. It's reducing the amount of men who are unnecessarily being diagnosed with a more harmless cancer. And that is the game changer. And that's why we think we're ready for a screening program.
It's not until it hits closer to home that makes you sit up and think, this is real. It's usually something you see on TV or it's happened to somebody else. But then when it gets close to home, then the reality kicks in. This could be me. It could be my brother. It could be, and people need to be encouraged. Go with your brother, your friend, or whatever. Get checked, because it's so important that this is caught early. If it's not caught early, that's the worst case scenario. We were talking about this off air earlier on, and the misconceptions are ridiculous, and it's so thin a line.
And also, I wonder whether lots of people, they can be frightened of the test or wary of the test, but also kind of want to not think about it too much.
Don't want to know, bury your head in the sand. That's what we guys do.
Yeah, so how do you...
That's what we want to do, and it's just going through that, because once you know, there's no way out. And so ignorance is, unfortunately, no excuse.
Is there the possibility of a test which is simple, not scary, cheap, and reliable every time? So like a sort of a better version of the PSA test going forward. Is that an option?
Potentially, right? There's a lot of research, new innovations coming. And, we hope that one day, there'll be a simple, blood test or thing you'll get in the post, which can diagnose for half a dozen, 20, 30, 50 cancers. But we don't think we should be waiting for that to start saving men's lives. 12,000 men die every year of prostate cancer. So many of those are needless deaths because they're being caught late. And that's the key thing about prostate cancer, is if you catch it early, your chances of survival are really, really good. But it's when it's caught late, that's when your survival rates plummet. So Chris Hoy, for example, who unfortunately is, in prime of his life and has been diagnosed with incurable prostate cancer because his was caught too late.
Do you feel, though, that with the pressure that people like Sir Chris Hoy are placing on the government and research bodies now, do you feel like things might be able to change? Because we're looking at the cost, I think, that we suggested was £25 million for a screening programme, which I know sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at the NHS budget, it's actually not that much, is it? Is it 0.01%?
1% of the NHS budget, exactly. So the report that we're going to be launching today in Parliament shows just that. It's the cost of a screening programme for the NHS. It shows it's comparable to other screening programs like in breast, bowel, and cervical cancer. And more importantly, a report we produced last year, which we built in collaboration with Deloitte, showed that it's actually a sound investment because it will deliver a positive socioeconomic benefit to the UK as a whole. And that's really important, right? We're talking right now about the NHS budget, but if you look across the whole UK, screening will actually deliver a positive benefit as well. So we think it's, we hope it's inevitable.
A diagnosis of prostate cancer is not a death sentence, and that is the message that guys need to understand.
Absolutely.
Don't bury your head in the sand.
There'll be fellas watching right now, Johnny, who are listening to your words just like you used to see it on the telly. What would you say to them if they're having doubts about getting checked? Or
Get checked, because just that one decision, that one day, that 1 hour out of the day can change your whole life and just make a massive difference. Or go with somebody. And say, you know what, if you do it, I'll do it. Go with your mate, go with your brother, go with your dads, go with the son. Do that. Just encourage one another to do it.
And you're not going to argue with Johnny Nelson, are you? Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you both. Thank you. Thank you, David, as well.
I love that idea. Go with someone.
Yeah.
Great idea. It is 27 minutes past 7. Much more coming up in the programme, but now let's get the news where you are.